Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. All right, welcome to a brand new episode of Bid Nerds Live. We are here in the downtown container park. My name is John Polnick. I'm your host for Bid Nerds, as well as my partner Michael D. Oh, no Michael Deep today, because he forgot what day it was. Sure, we all know where he's stuck. He's on the shitter. But I do have my good friend Wade Bennett from Tech Daily. Hello, Wade.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I own a calendar. I know what day of the week it is, and that's why I'm here. So maybe for Christmas holiday season, we all send Michael Deeb a calendar or two. And an alarm clock, maybe, something to help him out.
I'm thinking that you have the technical ability. You know some tech devices that may also be able to have some reminders of what day of the week.
We'll get a reminder on his
like
phone
that.
for sure.
Right. Mental Ward, a.k.a. Switcher Gary. How you doing?
What is up, everyone? What is up, Nerd Herd?
The Nerd Herd is the word. All right, speaking of the Nerd Herd, we love the Nerd Herd. The Nerd Herd hangs out and is part of the show, and you guys make this show super rad. And we're going to be leaning on you tonight since Michael Deeb isn't here. Also, you know what else I should say, Mental? I should say how awesome Godden Classic and Godden Porsche are for continuing their sponsorship of Bid Nerds. If you are in Las Vegas and you just want to go look at some pretty Porsches, you can just go down there to Godden Porsche and check out all the Porsches there. Or if you need your Porsche Classic serviced or you need some parts, they can totally hook you up anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world?
You don't even have to be in Las Vegas.
Wow, that's impressive.
I
actually didn't know that.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, no idea.
Well, here's, have you heard of European delivery? Mm-mm. Okay, so a lot of the European brands, like if you buy a Volvo or a BMW or Mercedes or whatever, or even Porsche for that matter, you can check the little box and get European delivery, which means you fly to. Usually the factory will put you up in a hotel somewhere.
Gotcha.
They'll let you see your car being built. They'll show you around in their museum, and then you get to drive your car around Europe, and then they send it to you, ship it to you, so it's there ready and waiting when you get home.
I would love to sign me up.
It's a pretty cool thing,
that is really
right?
Cool. Yeah, I've seen some people do that. That's awesome.
Well, so if you don't want to go do the whole European thing, because what do they really have there? Schnitzel? Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, I know.
They have Godden Classic and Godden Porsche has Vegas delivery.
Do they really?
So if you buy a car from Vegas, from Godden Porsche, and you're from out of town, they'll fly in, put you up in a hotel on the Strip, let you drive your car around, and then you fly home and they ship it to you.
Honestly, I think that's a great idea. We have some great roads around here, great nightlife. Why not make a weekend of it?
Make it happen on Cars and Cafe weekend. Come and be part of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Vegas Auto Fest. I mean, there's any number of great events that we do here in the Las Vegas area.
Every other weekend.
Your Godden Classic Porsche would fit in perfect.
Not to mention, it's freaking Vegas. There's always stuff to do. So, yeah, big shout out to our good friends at Godden Classic, Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. All right, we made some predictions last week, and, we're not very good at it. I'll just say that over and over again. We're just not good at it. We're not good at it, but we do try, and we had some close ones last week. There were some bids that are usually, sometimes our little crew here is all over the board. Deeb is usually like ridiculously high. I'm always bearish, and then you guys are all reasonable about it. But yeah, some of our groupings were really tight, and that made for some close calls. So let's get to the predictions from last week. And I guess we're going to start with our good friend Chris Carbine's 2002 Porsche 911 Turbo that he sold, or was attempting to sell on the Cars and Bids platform. Could Doug DeMiro get him off the ground with this really, really pristine black on black 996 Turbo with, get this guys, I mean, 5,300 miles. That's like a brand spanking new car. That's ridiculous.
This is as good as new, basically. If you missed your chance to buy a new one, here it is. It might be one of the lowest mileage, but still drivable ones out there. And if you want something that is really, really nice from a friend of the show, but also a great guy and great consigner and seller, this was a wonderful example.
This was an amazing car. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the big question is like, gosh, with a car like this, with being so few miles, our big question, I think, before the break was like, hey, is anybody going to drive this? Is this a car someone's going to buy and just squirrel away? Or is there, I mean, what do you guys think?
I honestly think this is the kind of car that you can probably still put a couple thousand miles a year on it, and it probably won't kill the value. If this had 500 miles or 1,200 miles, maybe it's collector grade in that climate-controlled garage with the 24 other Porsches that the person has. But I think this is just a really well-maintained, nice example of a car that can be driven. And I wonder, Mental, if you would put another 5,000 miles on it yourself.
I would put 5,000 miles on this car before the end of this year. This is a great car. Yes, I would start signing up to do Uber Eats just so I could drive this thing.
Oh my gosh! Then it would smell like, Five Guys French fries and spilled. Oh man, no. I mean, I am all about driving it, but I'm feeling like you could come up with some other good reasons to drive the darn thing. Oh, that would be an atrocity. Ew. Like, why is it that the French fries, like from McDonald's, don't rot?
Because they're not food. I don't think they can be classified as edible food.
I don't know, man. I've told this story before. I don't know if I've ever told it on the air. My good friend growing up when I was in grade school, his dad worked for a company, Scott Paper, up there in Washington, right? Huge lumber company, huge wood, they massive processing of paper up there at the Scott Paper factory in Everett. And those guys, one of their biggest clients was McDonald's.
What kind of paper did McDonald's buy?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You would think, so they bought their wrappers, or they made their, wrappers for all their burgers and stuff like that out of Scott paper. And my buddy's dad was like, no, they don't buy paper. They are our number one customer for raw wood pulp cellulose, which is the basis of paper. Mm-hmm. So it's basically ground up wood pulp. It's a cellulose. But when you look at it under a microscope, it's not much different than potato cellulose. So the theory is that they use this wood cellulose and just mold it into blobs and then cut it up like French fries.
Wow.
And then deep fry it. And that shit's good, man.
Yeah.
It's making me hungry right now.
I don't know. The McDonald's I had over the weekend is not tasting as good as I thought it did.
All right, so we made some bids on this car. I don't think you could find an old McDonald's French fry under the seat of this car. This car looked like it was immaculate. My partner Michael Deeb, who couldn't bother himself to be here for the show tonight, he bid at $100,000. I parked it right underneath him because this is about as nice a 996 as you're going to find. I said it would bring. Am I looking at the right thing? Actually, I'm looking at the wrong column. Guys, I'm looking at the wrong column. I guess we do need Michael Deeb every now and then. But nonetheless, Michael Deeb.
No, where's Randy? Where's the nerd herd? They normally keep track of all of our
right. Well, Michael Deeb said $109,000. He was he thought this is the bee's knees. It's not an X50 car. That's kind of a high bid, I thought, even with the low miles. So I came in way under that and said $79,996. I'm thinking that was more about the platform than anything else. Not that I'm poo-pooing Cars and Bids, because Cars and Bids has been, doing a really good job at...
They've proved us wrong time and time again.
Yeah.
Bringing big numbers on cars.
But I think this is a tough car in the winter. Your bid, Wade, was $91,911, and Mental was closer to Michael Deeb at $103,996. We were all getting pretty cute. And the actually, what did the Nerd Herd bring numbers in there, Mental?
They have not posted those just yet. Sorry.
Not seen it. No
Nerd
one's
Herd, as you guys are in
a little
there,
slacking tonight, huh?
You guys will throw your numbers up there, but I feel like this they were split in the same way that the crew was split.
So the final price on this car, on Chris Carbine's 996 Turbo with only 5,000 miles on it, this car sold 21 bids for only $75,500.
Wow.
Wade, what do you think of that?
I think somebody stole this car, and I think whoever bought it is probably really excited. I'm curious, maybe Chris can chime in if he chooses to, what his thoughts are. To me, that seems a little bit low. I know you were super bearish on it, but I mean, where else are you going to find a nice new example of a car like this? I guess the question is, does that appeal to the people who would put up big numbers? And you always get to like the comparisons of like, okay, what could you get instead for 75 or 80 or 85K? And there are a lot of options out there. But I don't know, that still seems quite low. And I also wonder if maybe a Bring a Trailer auction would have brought 5% more, maybe 80K or 85K. I mean, what do you think is the factor that maybe brought it to that number?
What do you think, Mental?
I'm going to go with it's the winter. I still believe that Cars and Bid has quickly asserted itself as being the platform. We spent last week talking about all the errors in some of the listings that we're seeing on what used to be the industry standard. So I think it's the season. We're between the holidays. It ended while some people were traveling. The Nerd Herd's absolutely in agreement. This car was stolen. So someone got an amazing deal on an amazing ride, and I hope that with the deal they got, that they listen to Wade and take this thing driving, because this is just a wonderful machine. Our buddy Buddha has one of these things, and they're just fantastic.
Do you think the guy's knees in the reflection of the car in this picture had anything to do with it? Or was that a little bonus?
I think that's a little bonus. You get a little ankle action back in the day. There was actually a good one where you could see he was squatting, getting the good picture. I got to get to it.
We joke, but these are actually
there.
pretty.
There it is, right there.
There it is. Yeah. These are honestly pretty good pictures compared to what we usually see.
I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not a dude with an iPhone in front of a trailer park.
Yeah.
So this was yeah.
We always ish on people with their photos. As long as it's not like the main photos, I'm okay. Yeah. If it's just, you got to have a batch of the title photo and then a good dozen or two of the rest of the car to really present it well. And then if there's extra coverage, I'm okay if there's something junky in the background, like a Miata in the garage, or you see what I did there? You see what I did there? You see what I did there? I don't mind if there's the reflection. That really doesn't bother me as long as we don't see the guy's feet. I'm going to let it slide. But this car should have brought more money. I think BAT would have found the people that would have appreciated the fact that this car had the lower miles. I don't know if this was just a bad day or whatever, but a lot of people are screaming correction and market crash and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just not seeing that many, yes, the market is correcting a little bit, but man, $75,000. This car should be another $10,000 because this really is a low miles collectible car. What do you guys think of the results of Chris's 996 Turbo? Was that well bought? Was that a steal? Or was that just the market saying, hey, 996s, nobody's going to want them anymore. They're just get them out of here. Who cares? Or is it just like Mental says, it's just the winter? Let us know in the comments below. And let's look at some of our other predictions that we made last week. We also talked about a 2011 BMW 1M. These cars, what do you think of these cars, guys? The 1M is something that people get really giddy about. This particular one, let's see if my computer catches up with us. This car being sold out of Los Angeles with another low mileage car. This thing only has 2,900 miles. Of course, the 1M, everyone knows, a twin turbocharged 3-liter. This one is a 6-speed, has a limited slip differential. It's on black sapphire metallic paint with black Boston leather upholstery, whatever Boston leather is. This thing looks super, super slick. If I were going to get a BMW 1M, it would have to be in this spec. I don't want one of those orange ones or
no
crazy looking
on
ones.
This one.
Slick top. This really a lot of people think of as the E30 of our generation. The E30 M3, of course, I was referring to. What do you think of this car, Wade?
So it's kind of an interesting car because this car came out and I was seriously interested in it as like a buyer, as a driver, because I thought that this was a really unique, super small, short wheelbase, powerful, fun, zippy car. And I sort of thought that BMW would introduce this into their M lineup and take it somewhere, have a few years of, some updates, some upgrades, really incorporate it. But they sold this car for, I believe, 1 year. They made like a few hundred of them, and that was it. And now, all of a sudden, these cars are selling for like over MSRP with still miles on them. And collector grade examples like this seem to be, which we'll see in a second, may or may not be approaching six figures on a car that like isn't even technically a full-fledged M car. It's not an M1, it's a 1M. And there was some like discrepancy there that they made to, differentiate it. So it's a weird car. There's a small amount of people who are very, very passionate about it. I don't think it's going to have the heritage and the prowess of like the OG M3s and some of the other cars that are like a staple in BMW's history. But still, I mean, this is a car that is almost six figures and is selling for more than MSRP, which is like shocking to me.
Yeah, it really is weird that they only made these for a few years. I mean, if you want a car, if you're going to come out with a car, and they even, in part of their marketing and the way they were pushing this car out, they're like, yeah, this is the new E30 M3. Well, they made a bunch of E30 M3s. Mm-hmm. E30 M3s are not as crazy rare as people act like they are. I mean, there was a ton of them back in the day, and they made them from, 88 to 92? Something like that. So to have this car for like a year or two, and I don't know how many of them they made, but you certainly see far fewer of these than you do E30 M3s. I think this car could have taken off, but it really was in an era where I think BMW just completely lost their way. They started calling cars. They took their M3, whether it was 4 doors or 2 doors, an M3 was an M3. That was like, they started screwing with their nomenclature and they started saying, okay, well, now an M3 is the 4-door version. And if you want the 2-door version, it's now called an M4. It's like that. Why would you screw with one of the greatest sports car brand names of all time and confuse the market? But in BMW's infinite wisdom, that's exactly what they did. And this car is right there with it. Just odd branding. Mental, what do you think of this thing?
I think it's a great car. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I understand the marketing aspect of it when they say it's the E30 M3, but I'm shamelessly plugging an article here that I wrote. That is me at the wheel of an E30 M3. And the thing that everyone likes to forget is that the E30 M3 was slower than the 325 IS of the same generation. It's an absolute hoot to have on track, but they built it it was a homologation special so they could get into Dutch touring racing with this kind of stuff. And to have this one out there, it was actually even more so of an M brand because it was faster than the regular one. It was more powerful than the regular one. And this is when BMW was trying to do that kind of false, fake collectors thing by, we're only going to make this amazing thing for a handful of years. I was very conservative on this one because I don't think the BMW collector market is there yet, but we're going to find out who was right and who was wrong.
All right. Well, Michael Deeb, he said that this car would bring $100,000. He's with you, Wade. He thought this thing was going to be a six-figure car. I came in, I kind of agreed with him, but I didn't think it would break $100,000. So I said $99,128. See, got a little cute. And then Wade, you were up there. You were the high bid. Excuse me, at $105,000, and Mental was the under at $89,000, which won Mental the Price is Right contest because the car sold for $81,500 on just 13 bids. This car did not get much action. What do you think of that, Wade?
Well, on the one hand, I am relieved because this is kind of a collector grade example. So maybe something with 15 or 20,000 miles goes 50 or 60 grand, which isn't terrible if you want something kind of fun. I don't think this is as fun as one of the Lotuses or even an older M3, but it is an interesting car. On the other hand, though, they didn't make that many of them. I think Michael Deeb last show said they only made a few hundred or maybe a thousand, couple thousand, something like that. So it has the scarcity. This is a car that has low miles, potentially collector grade, and I don't know if it brought what maybe the seller was expecting. And I think part of that too is it just isn't that well known of a car, even amongst BMW fanatics. So I think it had maybe the potential to go a little higher, but all the, I guess, evidence is suggesting it probably got all the money it needed to. So did it sell? It sold? No,
it did
results?
sell. That's the kind of surprising thing. At
Yeah.
$76,000. I mean, we've been talking about in recent episodes how, where the heck is BAT? Where the heck is Cars and Bids and PCAR Market with their setting their reserves? And it seems like BAT is really on top of it.
This one was reasonable.
Yeah, because
Seemingly.
I think at 76 and a half, I don't know where the reserve was. I don't know if maybe the guy lowered his reserve. Maybe the reserve was 80. I would have bet the farm that the reserve would have been in the 80s for this car.
Yeah.
So to see it sell for $81,000 is pretty impressive that they're on top of it. So what do you think, Mental?
I think this car was well bought. I think someone's got it on there. And everything you guys are saying about it being collector's grade and all of this is 100% correct. I just don't, your PCAR, your Lamborghini, your Ferrari people, you've got your drivers, you've got your racers, and you've got your collectors. And I don't think the BMW collector market has branched out enough into these niche models yet. I don't think it's big enough, and I don't think it's established. So that's why I went low on this one. And I'm noticing a trend that maybe it's because it's the season, but a lot of the cars that we're covering are cars that people wouldn't mind driving. And as a driver, I want to see that. I understand that these are blue chip investments and it's a great way to park your cash instead of putting it into a bank. But at the same time, they're things that are meant to be used. And I really hope that this car went to someone who is going to drive it.
Yeah, and you got to think that it's not gonna. So, all right, let's move. What do you guys think of the results of this BMW 1M with super low miles? Was that well bought? Is that the new normal? Hey, look, E30 M3s have really kind of corrected as well. So I don't know. I don't think that these numbers are that crazy, if I'm honest. Looks like the camera changed again. But anyways, we will work on some of the technical stuff that we're dealing with here. All right, what other car did we talk about last week? We also talked about this 76 Porsche 930 Turbo Carrera. Chris sent us this car, and this one's kind of a weird one, right? It's a 76. And this car, the first 930 Turbo says 45-year family-owned rest of world ROW car. And this thing has an interior that, let's just say that's a little polarizing. This is a car that supposedly has 67,000 kilometers on it, but it's TMU. But it's a black car on this kind of like, what do we say, baby puke yellow McDonald's liver, kind of a McDonald's colorway with these crazy yellow BBS wheels that are, boy, gotta love that cell phone on the dash, the old school cell phone, which doesn't quite seem period to me. That's more 80s than 70s. It's a little off there. This car appears to be in fairly decent shape, but I don't know. What did you think of this car, Wade?
Well, this car was many question marks.
It needed a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a project. It's listed as a project. And I said last show that anything you think you need in a project car, double the list and then some. I'm sure this is as represented as it possibly can be. I didn't know from last show that it was in the same family for how many? 45 years?
Yeah, one family owned.
I'd be curious if this was maybe a kind of car that was not quite a barn find, but almost something that was abandoned, forgotten, and cleaned up and polished and put on here as sort of an unknown. It looks relatively well maintained, with a lot of things that still need to be addressed. And I almost wonder if you're going to start taking things apart, if maybe the interior is something that you can take apart, because it is really a weird spec. I mean, that interior is odd. The wheels, easily replaced, but I mean, even the bottom part of the dash is McDonald's French fry yellow, and all. I mean, you can see that from 10 feet away.
You can see that shit from space if it didn't have a roof. That is some bright ass yellow. At least the steering wheel is black. You could get a black dash would go a long way in this car to really kind of subtle that stuff out. It does look like at least the floor mats are black, right?
Brown. They're brown.
They're brown. Yeah. Oh, that's right. They were another color, weren't they? So you've got the yellow and the brown in there. Boy, this car's a repaint. Boy, this car's just got all kinds of issues.
And then it's got that yellow pinstriping around the whale tail.
Yeah, which I like. I would like if it were all over the car, but it's just on the whale tail. How weird is that? All right. We made some predictions on this car. And again, our groupings were fairly tight on this one. Deeb was at 86,000. I came in at 75,930. Wade, you were right there at 77,000. Mental said 65,000. This car sold. It did make reserve with 25 bids. And look, Wade, you and I were super close. Again, just as a refresher, you said 77,000. I said 75,930. So basically, I said 76 and you said 77. My cute little bid of 930 blew me out of the water, which gave you the win because this car sold for $76,500, which eked out the win for you by what, like $70 or something like that.
I'll take it.
So congrats to you on that one. How'd you get it right?
I mean, one thing that Michael Deeb said last show is this is a car that is probably going to take another $20,000 or $30,000 at least to maybe make it a $125,000 car, maybe if it's done right and somebody wants it. I thought that it would take even more money to bring it, so I kind of was a little bit lower. I'm sort of interested to hear that it actually sold because you remember a couple of weeks ago, the auctions that weren't selling were project cars, cars that were kind of obscure, cars that, I don't know, people maybe had crazy prices in their mind. But this individual seems to have had a reasonable number. I think it actually got maybe even a little higher in the end. And hopefully whoever bought it can bring it back to whatever former glory it may have had. I mean, interior and all.
Well, I mean, 76s are sought after. I mean, the no intercooler car, I mean, that's the first turbo. People get pretty stoked about that. Mm-hmm. So this car does have more potential than, say, a 78 930, honestly, even though it may not be arguably as good a car as the actual 930s. Mental, what did you think of this thing?
I loved it. I loved it right from looking at it. This is like exactly, if you're going to get a 930, get a weird one. I hope that they leave the interior the way it is. It needs a head stud, or it was snapped.
Yeah, a broken head stud or something like that. So it's going to have to, at the very least, an engine out service.
Right. And how many people? I mean, there are a lot of people that tell you can work on those engines, but unless you live here in Las Vegas and you know a guy named Mazzagatti, you're probably slim and none between who can actually fix one of these things.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have it out, you're going to have it gone through. Leave it weird, man. Leave it weird and drive it, and the car won't lose any value because its value is in its weirdness. It's the same thing you're telling me about the 914. I could absolutely go through and make it an immaculate museum piece, just like every other one out there. And this one's got history. It's got provenance. It's cool.
But this one's a lot closer to being back to original than your 914 with respect. Your 914 would take 5 times the value of the car, even when it's done, to get it back to that. Whereas this particular car, it's had a repaint, but okay, you get a repaint and look, I'm not totally disagreeing with you, Mental. I do think that if somebody gets this car, they shouldn't change the interior much. Maybe just a dashboard or something like that. Maybe go with black floor mats instead of the brown ones or the whatever.
Because you got to change the doors too, because everything's brown carpet.
Yeah, that's some weird ass stuff. You know what? Just do a complete carpet kit in this thing. Seriously, and like maybe the cocoa,
cocoa mats too.
Yeah, the cocoa mats interior or something like that would really kind of freshen it up a little bit. And and then change maybe the color of the wheels, and you still get that crazy yellow interior. But just like a little yellow goes a long way, guys. You don't need yellow wheels to match. That's just going a little, maybe a sticker or something like a McDonald's logo on the hood.
Dale Smith is actually agreeing with you, saying changing the interior and the wheels, not that big of a deal. Rear seat delete, new dash, door panels, cool. And then, and he said cool seats. I'd say leave the seats, but a carpet kit. And then you can keep all this stuff when you go to resell it for somebody that wants it extra wacky.
Yeah. All right, what do you guys think of the results of this 930 Turbo 76 first year project car? Was this thing well bought, or does this belong? Is this pretty much just like an old French fry, McDonald's French fry that you found under the seat? Let us know in the comments below. And you know what time it is? I'm looking at my watch right now. If you're looking at your watch, if you're watching the show, you're probably looking at your watch going, when will this goddamn thing end? This show, when is this over?
Well, and also they're looking at their watch, which should be next to their guy's custom bracelet.
That's true. That is true.
They're looking at their watch going, man, JP went through 4 cars and didn't say the magic word.
Well, I mean, we still have cars to go, and actually I only went to 3 cars because we're skipping the 4th car that we made a prediction on last week because our good friend Radu sent us a car for. But the car, we all thought it was going to end before this show, but it still has another day to go. So we'll get to the results of the Stratos on the next episode. So checking to see what time it is. It's time for a commercial, and that means it's also time for you to check the time of your watch. Does your watch need service? Does your watch need like maybe a new strap or some cool stuff?
I think I know somebody whose watch needs service.
Where can I send my beloved? You guys all have cool watches. I just got an old tag. Where can I send my beloved tag for service?
Anthony Vera has you hooked up with Our Smiths in Idaho. He is the guy. He is the best guy in the world to service your Swiss watch. Swiss repairs, Swishers. I'm Swissing it up. Sorry there, buddy. It's like it's the Cool Ranch Doritos. But look, no, seriously, if you've got a Rolex, Patek Philippe, a Panerai, your Tag Heuer, doesn't matter which Swiss watch. If you have a Swiss watch or a fine watch, Our Smiths will have it hooked up in no time. They will actually send you a package. You put the watch in the package and it gets shipped back to them. They do the service, fine Swiss repair at Our Smiths in Idaho. We actually have a cool little commercial for them that we're going to have on the next episode. But Our Smiths is where it's at. Let's go ahead and go to commercial, and we'll be right back with 4 brand new predictions for our next episode. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds. Get those nerds! All right, thanks for sticking around, guys. The Nerd Herd knows where it's at. You guys are here for a live episode of Bid Nerds where we predict the auction results for enthusiast cars on Bring a Trailer Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, and more. It's like the price is right for cars, and we are having some fun tonight without our partner, Michael Deeb, who forgot what time it was. Apparently, he did not get his watch service
needs his watch
at
service,
Our Smiths. I don't know. Well, I don't even know if he has a watch. So he should give Our Smiths a call because they don't just service watches. They have watches for sale, too. They have like the greatest selection of pre-owned Rolexes and Panerais and stuff. In fact, I think he got in a Panerai the other day that I was like, I kind of want that watch. But anyways,
so what you're saying is if, say, like there was a major gift-giving holiday coming up and there was a watch lover in your life, you would do well to go to Our Smiths.
Correct.
That's just rock solid advice, man.
All right. Well, we are back. The Nerd Herd is playing along with us. We got Randy. We've got Anthony. We've got, looks like Dale's hanging out with us. That's awesome, Dale. How you doing, buddy? We've got what is it? Bav Speed Racer is hanging out. He just got his car cover from Godden. Right. Nice work. I'm sure you told him that you got it because of Bid Nerds.
It was a car he bought that we covered, actually.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. And then, of course, Ross is hanging out across the pond over there. Sahan's hanging out with us tonight, too. We got David Sullivan in the house. All kinds of people are hanging out. If I missed you, I apologize. But keep chiming in with the comments, and we'll try to get those up on screen. Let's get into some new predictions. This first car on the list is a car that I know Mental doesn't like, and god dang it, I hate it when I agree with Mental. I saw this car on the list, and I was just like, can we just... snore. Okay, this definitely has Michael Deeb written all over. This is a 2014 Lamborghini Gallardo LP 560 to 50th Anniversario 6-speed. I can't do the Italian pronunciations like Michael Deeb does. What do you want from me? This car is 21,000 miles. It's coming out of Connecticut, Weston, Connecticut, wherever the heck that is. It's a one of 25 50th Anniversary Edition examples. This car comes from the factory with a 5.2 liter V10. This car is a 6-speed manual transmission, which makes it pretty dope, I got to admit. These cars, of course, has a limited slip differential. This is the rear-wheel drive variant. This is not the all-wheel drive thing. This is a Bianco Opales paint. Whatever. Again, I can't do the Italian accent. I'm not even going to try it. Not going to try to pronounce it. 19-inch Scorpius multi-spoke alloy wheels and all kinds of other, Lamborghini BS. This car looks really nice. I mean, it looks like, to me, if you're going to get into a Lamborghini Gallardo, I don't like these because I think they're typically kind of boring, but this particular version of it is probably where it's at. I would probably agree with Deeb that if you're going to get one, this looks to me like it's the GT3 of the Gallardo. I think that these cars are typically kind of overpriced, that for my money, I would just get an R8. I think the R8s are actually nicer looking, smoother, and just generally a better car. But what do you think of these, Wade?
I am a fan of the Gallardo. I unfortunately can't fit in one comfortably. I've attempted to many times. But for those of you who can fit in a Gallardo comfortably, I think that they are fun cars. This has the manual transmission. You're not suffering through awful e-gear transmission or anything like that. I disagree with you that this is the Gallardo to get, though, because you're not going to drive this one. This is a 1 of 25 Anniversary Edition. And this is going to go to somebody who has 12 other Lamborghinis, and it's going to be parked next to all the other Anniversary Edition, Special Edition ones. And it may go to a car show or a car event every once in a while, and that's about it. Most Gallardos have been driven 80,000 miles and may or may not have their original front and rear bumpers or doors or wheels or interiors, but this is probably one of the nicest special edition Gallardos out there. And I actually think this is on Cars and Bids, correct?
No, this one's on Bring a Trailer.
Sorry, I didn't mention Interesting. That. I thought this would be a Cars and Bids car for sure, because it's kind of, the younger generation, fun, interesting, and special edition car.
Bitcoin bros.
Yeah, exactly. But on Bring a Trailer, I would be interested to see what people think of this car on Bring a Trailer. I don't know if that's really the audience, but we'll see.
This car is an alumni car too, which means it was, and I feel like maybe we covered it. Mental, tell us why you hate this thing.
For almost all the same reasons you guys do. It's not even the car, it's the culture. The same reason I don't have a Harley anymore. The same reason that when I eventually buy a Corvette, I'm going to sell it. I just don't want to be associated with the people. It's a supercar for people that can't drive. This is the exception. That manual transmission, painfully rare. If I'm not mistaken, this might have been the last Lamborghini available with a manual, and it's got the right interior, and it's the 560-2. So anytime you see a -2, that's a two-wheel drive car. So this is going to be a very, very fun machine, but also, like Wade, can't fit into one. And I spent years crammed in the passenger seat as an exotic car instructor, teaching people how to drive these things. And they're not, and if you're too short, you can't fit in them either, because the seats aren't very adjustable. So you've got like this sweet spot of like 5'5" to like 5'9", and then outside of that, you're not going to enjoy this car. But yes, I think Gallardos were too heavy. They were not responsive. That V10, it made plenty of torque, but it just did not wind up very quickly. And then especially us living here in Las Vegas, everyone would assume you're just renting it.
That is true. Yeah, you would certainly be one of the kids who rented this for the day or the weekend or by the hour for $600 an hour if you were in a Gallardo. But if you know, you know. This is honestly a special Gallardo. If you're gonna get one, I mean, this one is really special.
Are there any Gallardos left in rental fleets at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's usually mostly Huracans, isn't it?
It is.
Really?
It's a lot of Huracans, but this is your Groupon car. So if you've got one of those exotic car rentals, you put in your Groupon,
entry
rent
level,
a Lamborghini, and then this is the one you get.
Yeah.
A lot of them, because those engines will take a lot of boost. Your flying mile people started gathering up when these started bottoming out in the market. So they'll throw twin turbos on them, and these things will run the flying miles down in Texas or some of the other open road events where they can get well into the hundreds, flirting with 200 miles an hour because they can do that on this one.
That V10 thing is definitely
our director of cinematography actually has a little bit of technical advice on there, but it's probably too complicated for the rest of us all to follow. But yeah, this if you're a Gallardo person, you know exactly what you're looking at. I would even offer this probably should have gone to Cars and Bids.
Well, it's sold on Bring a Trailer back in, let's see here, on, looks like it was June of 2021. Actually, my bad, July of 2021. So that was right when the market was starting to get crazy back in the COVID days there. That was, I don't know if I'd say that was the height of the market. That was probably more in 2022. But this is definitely when ish was getting a little nuts because of why? Inflation. There it is. Go ahead and drink. He was teed up for that one. This car sold for $240,000 back then, and it had a yellow vinyl wrap on it. They took that vinyl wrap off, so it's got that white underneath, and I think it's a much better looking car for it. Wade, how much? Well, actually, I guess since Deeb's not here, do I need to start the bidding? So since that in that order, I'm going to say that this car does not get the 240 back. I think this guy is, but I don't think it's going to be too crazy off because, like you guys said, this is a collector version of the car. It does have kind of high miles, not even kind of high miles. It has very high miles for such a rare car. But I'm going to go ahead and say that this car breaks 200, and I'm going to go 202,000, and I think it sells.
I think it's a pretty good price. I'm gonna go with the over 200,000 for sure. I think 6 months ago when people were spending $500,000 on Countachs, this would have been like the perfect one to just throw in there. He's probably too little, too late, and it's probably not gonna hit 240. So I'll give him 10-ish% less at 220, and it sells. And I think you should take that money and run.
What do you think, Mental?
I'm going to say it's. I don't think it's going to break 200. I'm fluctuating here, but I got to commit. So I'm going to say 189,560, and it sells because if they're putting this up and they own this car, they know what it is, and they're putting it up. They've got this money earmarked for something else.
That would represent a pretty steep loss, and I don't think that's unrealistic. I mean, I think that exotic cars, of all the cars that are probably going to get hurt the worst, I think Lambos and special Lambos and stuff like that are absolutely going to be the cars that are going to get hit. Cars like this, I don't think anybody bought these cash. I think everybody was crinkling bags and pulling all the cash out of those bags to pay for these things. No, I don't think they had bags full of cash. I think they were just like, hey, money, it was cheap in 2021. Money was cheap in 2022. Hell, money was cheap in the early part of 2023. But now money is expensive. And so for someone to leverage themselves for a car like this just doesn't make any sense, especially when we're not seeing massive appreciation of cars like this.
No, you've seen Ed Bullion be on VinWiki talking about how when he was working for Lamborghini of Atlanta, how he would just roll people into these, ridiculous balloon interest loans. Yeah. And now somebody's left holding the bag, and right now it's this owner.
Yeah, and if he has a loan on it, hopefully he has a loan on it that has a low interest rates, because he's going to be making payments on it till the end of days, until things come around and maybe the car appreciates again. I do think the car has a future. This is a 6-speed car. This is a V10 car. This is a car that will come around when things come around, if any of them ever do. But I don't see it. And the thing is too, is that he's going to have to stop driving it. Yeah. I mean, you put any more miles on this car, you get to 30,000 miles in this car, and I think that's like having 150,000 miles on a car like this.
Yeah. What did this have? 20-something thousand?
21,000 miles on it. Yeah, and he only put like 2,000 miles on it since he bought it.
Yeah, it's kind of the end of its life. I mean, if this were any other Gallardo, I mean, a 30 or 40,000 mile Gallardo is actually like pretty decent. Yeah. You see Gallardos with like 80,000 miles. Yeah. And even those still sell for nowadays 60, 70, 80 grand or more. Yeah. But yeah, this one I think is probably at the end of its driving life, at least regularly, which is kind of sad.
If you want to preserve the value.
If you want to preserve value. But if you're going to spend, let's call it $200,000 on a Gallardo of all things, I mean, you have to not drive it. I really question the veracity of like a collectability standpoint from this car, because like the Diablos, sure, the Countachs, sure. I don't know if the Gallardo has like its time in the sun right now for its like, young people aren't looking at the Gallardo as like an icon of the mid 2000s or the 2010s or 20, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird car. And I think it's probably going to be like 20 or 30 years before people look back and they find like the greatest example of a Gallardo when it goes for $500,000. I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah. I mean, but think about it let's call it $200,000. Let's say it's somewhere in that ballpark, right? What else do you get for $200,000 that's this baller and has this kind of performance?
I mean, do you want to drive it or do you not want to drive it?
I want to drive it. I'm saying $200,000, just $200,000 in general. Like you're looking at a GT3 RS, like like a 2016 era, first 991.1.
Nice 458. You would almost you can get a crappy 720S for $200K if you wanted, like a high mile 720S. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of examples that you could actually drive though. And I don't know that if you pulled up to a car meet or even a special event with this car, anybody would even look at it.
I don't know if you're picking up what I'm dropping here. What I'm asking more is not. I am specifically asking, what would you rather drive for $200,000? Because the McLaren is gonna be broken all the time, or will burn down, right? At that price. So that's not in there. I mean, the GT3 might arguably be the better car, but definitely not as baller as this. And it's a PDK. As great as the PDK is, it's not a 6-speed manual. Mm-hmm. So I mean, and even an R8, which is essentially the same car, the manual ones you're looking at $1.50 at least, and it doesn't say Lamborghini on it. This car, actually, if you're like going, I want to spend $200,000 for the best freaking bang for the buck for $200,000, I don't know. Maybe I've sold myself on this thing. I actually really like it. There's nothing else I can think of for that kind of money that's going to come with 3 pedals, other than some kind of really cool air-cooled 911 beast.
I was going to say an older Porsche, definitely.
But if you want something modern, I don't know. Mental, what do you think? He's going to be like, get me on it and save the money.
He'd rather get 50 Miatas for this thing.
50? But what are these, golden Miatas? I'm rolling in like 150 Miatas for this thing.
Fleet Miatas.
I think even staying in Lamborghini, if you want crazy baller Lamborghini, I would dig up a Murcielago. I would dig up the original.
You cannot get a Murcielago for $200,000, can you?
Oh yes,
can you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be about as reliable as this one. But the point being,
hold on there though. I don't think these are unreliability. Hold on.
These are god awful.
What?
Oh yes,
that's not true.
It's I worked fleet management with these things. You look at them sideways, they would break. The transmissions are made of blown. And granted, this is the manual, and I'm talking about the
Eager is a hunk of shit. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I think these engines are, this is an Audi-derived engine. Yeah.
The engines are legit. It's just everything else, this is like the beginning of the VAG group. So they didn't necessarily always have all the quality control. So some of the electronics get wonky, really, really care. And it was a clumsily assembled car.
Italian stuff. Hold on a second. Somebody fill in.
Okay, right, so yeah, so I don't. I think you can do better with a variety of researched, even other Italian cars, and honestly, other Lamborghinis. And I know I'm the weirdo bottom feeder. I would go find an Espada, or some really wonky, weird Lamborghini for the money.
Yeah, but that's always going to break. I mean, you can tell me that this Lamborghini is going to be relatively unreliable compared to a 911. Well, no kidding. But I mean, I think relative to a Murcielago or any other older Lamborghini, this thing is a Honda Accord compared to everything before it, even compared to an old Ferrari of the same contemporary. These things are pretty darn reliable, especially with the 6-speed manual transmission. You're going to have switches break and weird lights come on, stuff like that, but I don't think the thing is going to just have a massive failure like a Murcielago. There's no way I would want a 12-cylinder Lamborghini. No thanks. No. And that's, again, it goes back to my original question. For $200,000 to drive
the
something.
The Murcielago was a 10. The Diablo was the 12. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Murcielagos were 10 as well?
Murcielago was the first baby Lambo like this one. This one is its spiritual successor before the Huracan.
Right, but the Murcielago was much bigger, wasn't it? And didn't they put a V12 in the last version of the Murcielago? Because isn't that what became the Aventador?
I don't think so. I think that was the Diablo, and that was
the Diablo is way before the Murcielago.
But that was I'm not
as up on my Lamborghini is basically history. The pre-Aventador. All right, guys, this is the
we got stupid.
Anyways, this is definitely a cool car. Anyways, what do we get? What's the nerd
if you're a Lambo nerd, this is absolutely the one to have 100 point. The nerd herd is they're hovering in the 210, 207 out of Sahan. Randy saying 230. Ross wanted to jump in there and say he thinks it's going to go right under 200, so 199,990. Jim Bagley's got us at 183.5. And Anthony's all up in my grills telling me that the 560-2 with a 6-speed manual does not deserve the hate it's receiving right now, and he's right. I'm bagging on the Gallardo in general, not on this particular one. So
and thanks, Anthony. The Murcio always had a 12-cylinder. Thank you. Jeez, I'm sitting there going, what?
There we go.
What? Right. Okay, I know I'm an idiot.
We were just testing you.
Jeez, Louise, making me feel stupid.
No, honestly, we should have asked Lee. Lee Pettit would have known the answer right out.
Yeah, what did Lee say over there? Yeah. When you call him out, you got to read the comment, because Lee's comment was pretty brilliant.
Well, he was early on. It was the cylinder bore spacing of 88 millimeters, which they should have gone with the 90 millimeters, which is what the Audi R8 V10 had.
Yes, exactly. And he Googled that real quick just to sound technical, and we love him for it. Anthony is correct, just like I was. All the Murcielagos had 12 cylinders because Batman drove it. Come on, man. All right, let's move on to the next car. That was a little too much on that thing.
Do the whole were we right, wrong, thing into the camera.
Were we right or wrong? What are we talking about?
And then put your comments below.
Oh yeah, let us know what the comment. Well, no, this is the prediction, not the results. We do that with the results.
All right,
we do that with the results when I edit this up. Thanks for making my editing job that much harder. Mental. Love you, brother. All right. Jeez. Okay, let's move on to this 80. Jeez. But okay. So look, Deeb, you're not here. Oh my God, I quit.
He quit. It's over.
How many goddamn 911 turbos can we talk about? Oh, I am so over this. I was looking at the list like at the last minute early when it was coming in. It was like, okay, there's a 911 turbo. There's another one. I deleted a 930 turbo because 930 turbo. I'm sick of this. And he snuck in. I am so sick of 911 turbos. Yes, D, we get. You're worse with 930 turbos than Mental is with goddamn Miatas. All right, this is a 19.
Oh, wait until later, though.
Yes, later. What happens later?
All right. Well, yeah. Let's talk about this one, and we'll get to some cars.
We'll get to the Miatas, yeah. All right, we're going to talk about this 11,000-mile 1987 Porsche 911 Turbo Coupe. This is an M505 slant-nose bad boy. Look at this thing. It's red on, ballsack tan. Where is Buddha tonight? This is his colorway.
Buddha's got with us. He was at dinner. He sent us a message, so yeah, he'll catch us later.
So Buddha's out driving around in his C4S. This is obviously the 3.3-liter turbocharged flat six, 4-speed 4-speed manual with a limited slip differential. It's in Guards red paint with cashmere beige interior. It says it has 16-inch Fuchs wheels, cross-shield brake rotors, all the typical 930 stuff, but it's got the cheese graters and the box rockers and the slant nose and the big old, the vents on the front hood there, giving it all that 80s squeeze. This car may not be our favorite colorway, but for an 80s car, this is about as 80s as you get. I have always wanted a slant nose. I have had one, and it wasn't a real one, and I want it back. God damn it. 930 slant noses. Do slant noses do anything for you, Wade?
They do. They tickle me just right. I don't know that I could afford one or know how to drive one properly, but this is an interesting example. I'm glad it's not a white over black Porsche like we've had for the last 12 weeks in a row. It's kind of an interesting color. It's fine. It seems like a well-maintained car overall, and I'm curious from your perspective, would you rather drive an original slant nose, or would you go back to a replica and be totally happy and totally fine with not, ruining something that's really nice?
Yeah, no, I would absolutely be happy driving either or. Obviously, I like the value of driving a replica slant nose or whatever. I wouldn't convert a perfectly good one, but I would absolutely buy one that's had a slant nose conversion. That's what I had. I just don't, the 505s have just come up. Like real slant noses have always been worth something, and now they're really crazy. A slant nose kit on an old 911 hurts the value, whereas a real slant nose from the factory adds big bucks. I'm just not willing to pay that extra.
Do you think the values are justified? That increase?
No. It's purely aesthetic. It really does nothing for the car as far as it's not increasing the aerodynamics. It's actually, I'm sure it's adding weight with the motors in there, making the headlights pop up and stuff. It's just giving it that 80s sweet. I love it, but I wouldn't pay extra for it. Mental, what do you think?
I'm with you. I do enjoy looking at these things. They're pretty to look at. And you had the coolest slant nose I think I ever saw. I wish you hadn't gotten, that was like right when we first met, and you were rolling around in that thing and it was awesome. It was like the perfect patina, and you wouldn't even put the top up on it.
Because the top was roached out. We found that car. The car had been sitting in the desert for like 15 years. I couldn't believe it ran. When I showed up, I was not expecting it to be running, and it did. But it had, like, the bumpers were gone. And he started the thing up. I'm like, holy crap. We drove around the block with, 20-year-old tires or whatever, and smoke pouring out of it and everything. And, the fuel in the tank was probably as old as everything else. I could not believe it was running. But we took it over to our friend Daniel over at German Motors, and we messed around with it and got it, cleaned out the tank and put new fenders on it, and we put a really cool livery on it that we called that the menthol, because it was an original, what was that, some kind of green.
The menthol green from when Marlboro had the menthols on there.
They still do. Menthol still makes the Marlboro's menthols. Ask my wife. But it had mostly primer on it. It was the Metropole blue was the actual color of the car. So there were still bits of it that were still Metropole, but most of the car was like primer gray. So we put the big green stripes on it and put the Marlboro logo on it. And then I think Dwayne Wick had like this kind of like, I don't know, it was like a Gulf blue front nose laying around. He had a front bumper, so we slapped that. The car was just so badass. I wish I had a picture of it. Maybe we'll get it for the other side.
You used to have it in the old Durr Fascination intro, and I'm shamelessly
It is my picture on probably my Facebook or Instagram account. But anyways, who cares? We're supposed to be talking about this 76, or not 76, 87. I'm still thinking about that 76 from earlier. No, this is a really cool car. Super low miles. This car's probably not going to get driven a lot. This is definitely a collector car. Our good friends at Porsche Godden Classic, they have a silver one of these that they brought to Cars in Cafe. When we were out filming in the desert, they brought a silver 505.
I saw it, yeah. Really beautiful car. They parked it right out front, out of my price range. But if you're interested, that is a great example.
Yeah, and that one's an 89 with the 5-speed, so that one's going to bring all the money. Steve was saying that he pointed out, and he was right, that the silver ones. Usually silver 911s are super common, but you never see a silver slant nose. That is crazy rare. So anyways, what do we think this thing's going to bring, guys? I guess I'll start and say I think it's going to go, what's the nerd herd looking at? Let's cheat with the nerd herd. What's the nerd herd saying?
The nerd herd is actually not started throwing any money out.
No one's throwing numbers at this thing.
You got to
anymore.
be the one.
Yeah, I mean, at $170, it still has a couple of days to go. I'm going to say this thing gets 220. I'll say, I'm going to go at 229.11. I'm sorry. I that was a slip, and I think this is within the rules. I meant 229.30.
It's okay. We'll give you.
Are we going to allow me that?
I'll allow it.
Come on. All right.
It's all right. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Let he who has never gotten the model wrong number throw the first lug nut.
What do you think, Wade?
I don't know. Is it a $200,000 car? Probably, but we got to take into account all the factors that we say every single show: the time of year, the this, the that. I'm gonna say right under. I'm gonna say 195. And I think it'll probably still sell because if they're listing it now, there's a reason they're selling it, right? You got to think that.
Fair enough. Mental, what do you think?
Oof.
I mean, it is sitting at $170 already with 2 days
It is,
to go.
and no, but this is an original, and you know it's sad. It won't get driven. I'm gonna say 205,930.
205,930. We got
Now, and as predicted, once you threw the first bid out there, the herd is on it. So we've got Randy at 211. We've got Anthony at 265. He's a big one. Dale's telling us 215. Ross 2.25. David 230.
We got a weird camera set up there, Mental. I'm not sure if
Sorry
you're
about that. Yeah, we'll go back to that one. 230. Anthony is at 265. 197.5 out of Jim Bagley, and Sahan is telling us 209.
Pretty wide range.
Yeah. Some people are. Yeah, Anthony thinks that this is well over 250. At 265, yeah. I mean, like I said, Godden's is 250, and that's an 89 with a 5-speed. So I gotta think that a red one, an 87, is going to bring less. And you know, I don't know. Yeah, well, we shall see. I think weather is definitely going to be a factor, but this is such a collector car that I think some kind of collectors look. This is the kind of car that in spring could bring 280, 290, maybe. I don't know. I think when we talk about these bids that we've been throwing out there all day today, and we talk about how it's this time of year, I mean, look, I always cite the Flying Hawaiian's 930 project, or his RSR project, right? We saw him try to sell that car last December on BAT, arguably the best platform, and it only bid up to 225, and he didn't sell it. And then when he put it on PCAR Market with my film, of course, in July, it brought like 275. So time of year matters. It's a big thing. And I think anyone trying to sell a car this time of year kind of knows that and has to have expectations. I might be selling a car here on BAT in the coming weeks, and it will, so I anticipate selling it for. I am aware,
and the weather and everything.
I have looked outside. Yeah, I mean we are.
You know the economy's collapsing and there's inflation everywhere.
End of the world. I know the end is nigh. The sky is falling. Whatever, I know I don't expect crazy high numbers because of that. My expectations are, let's say, tempered because of the time of year. So we'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens with this particular car. Let's move on to the next prediction on something that isn't a goddamn 930 turbo. All right, this definitely has Michael D. written all over it. You know what? I'm going to skip this one. I'm so bored with these. I don't care. I'm going to go right to Mental's car and go with the 2018 Fiat 124 Abarth. This is a Mental special on cars and bids. Let's see here if I can get the darn thing to open up on my computer machine. Okay, so this is a 19,000 mile example of a 124 Fiat Spider. These come with a 1.4 liter turbocharged inline four rather than horizontally opposed. It's a rear-wheel drive, 6-speed manual convertible car. Nero Rosso is the color combo. And this car looks like it is a private seller type. And they are coming out of South Carolina. So it's not snowing where these guys are trying to sell this thing. What a cool car. If you have to do a Miata, you may as well do an Italian version of it. It's like, you know, when you're typing something on your computer, you can go up there and hit the bold button, and you can hit the italicize, and you can put a big underline under it. That's basically what this is to a Miata. And I think these are fun. I mean, this little teeny engine with the little turbos in there. And I mean, look, I'm not as embarrassed to be seen in this thing as the Miata. What do you think of these, Wade?
These are cool. I know a kid in town who has this car and really enjoys it. I think this is kind of a weird car because on the one hand, it is the kind of car that's like, if you saw somebody driving it, you would think that they are a driver. This is like a very much one of those intro specialty kind of learn to drive aggressively, maybe a track day kind of car. But at the end of the day, it's a Fiat. And fun fact, there are more Fiat dealerships in the US, number-wise, than the number of cars they sold this year. Nobody buys Fiats. So as great of a car as it is, you may be the only person this year who bought one, which is kind of sad because this is a really interesting, quirky, fun driver's car. But maybe you should have got a Miata. What do you think, Mental?
I was on the fence. It was going to come down to this or my current selection of an Indy Miata. And this is a slightly smaller engine, but it's got a turbo, and the numbers it makes are almost identical to the Miata. And it comes down to, do you like normally aspirated or forced aspiration? This one's got the right setup. It's got the good shocks. It's got the Brembo calipers on there. This is going to be a great, fun driver's car. I hope they, even if they don't take it to an autocross or to a track day or anything like that, they just aggressively run down to the corner to get some ice cream with somebody with the top down on a really nice spring day. No one will regret buying this car.
Yeah, I mean, you always talk about going to work and getting crazy in your Miata, and like no one notices.
No one cares.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, look at the guy. He's winding out the Miata. He's doing almost 27 miles an hour.
You're ripping through the gears on something like this, and you just think you're Mario Andretti, and you get passed by a Prius. You know, you're like, you're just winding the little mice in there are just screaming at you. But that's fun. This is a fun car. This is a car that you can't take seriously. The Abarth badge just gives it that extra little snappiness. I typically prefer naturally aspirated cars, but with something like this with a little engine, I think the little turbo is going to give it just a little bit more poop. I've never driven the Abarth version of this. I've driven the Abarth 500 and was actually really pleasantly surprised with how much fun that car was. I got one on Turo once. And then, I drove this car, and I assume the regular ones are a 1.4 turbo too, right?
That was how they made up. It was the previous generation, and then also the previous generation's transmission, but then they put the turbo on it. Yes. Yeah.
So I drove the regular, 124 Spider, and it was actually pretty fun. Even, I mean, it didn't have all the cool Abarth stuff, but even that car was a good time. But what do we think this car is going to bring any money though? That's the big question. I mean, like you said, nobody buys Fiats. I think nobody buys Fiats because what do they make right now? Do they even make this car? Do they just make the 500? Basically?
Yeah, I don't even know if there's a current model of this one. I don't even know if they still make the 500. But yeah, it's odd because you would think, especially nowadays, this car would have like a bit of a market, but for some reason it just doesn't really. And I'm not familiar with this seemingly special edition something or other with the graphics and all that. I don't know if maybe this is a special edition one that maybe brings a little bit more money, but you got to figure the pool of buyers for this specific car is microscopic, right?
Yeah. Looking at what do you guys think of the pictures of the hood? Can you bring up a picture of the hood, the nose shot?
They do still make these cars, though.
They do still make them? Look at the hood. So one, does anybody out there know, or Mental, do you know, is this stripe on the hood, this basically black hood that continues all the way to grill? That's the way it comes? The
flat, well, it's I want to say it's a dealer installed option, the flat black trunk and hood.
Is it me, or does that hood just not fit? Look at the fitment on the front of that. Is that because of the vinyl that's on the hood, or is that just because it's Italian, or what the heck is going on? I mean, was this car bumped into? Was this car kind of like that
was this
Type R that we talked
disassembled
about?
as a race car?
Yeah, it used to be a race car and had a roll cage all over it. Are we going to find out through the comments that this thing was on the track?
Those two scoops are looking a little different to me, and that might not be a factory hood.
This car has a lot of rock chips and dings for a low mile car. Yeah, maybe it's a non-factory hood. Yeah, that's a good possibility. All right, well, that's something that'll probably get taken care of in the comments, so we'll have to pay attention to those when we watch the close of this thing. Big question is, what will it bring? And I guess it's on me to start the numbers on the Miata
I'll
Romeo.
tee this one up.
Okay.
So we did get an early. David Sullivan told us 18K. Randy B saying 24, Ross is saying 22, and Anthony's annoyed at Randy, so he said 25.5.
All right, Randy said 25.5.
Anthony said 25.
Oh, Anthony's, but because Randy was under that.
Randy
right?
said 24 exactly.
Damn it, Randy! That's what I was going to say. I'm going to take your bid, Randy. I'm going 24, and I think it sells at that. Look, before you guys bid, I think that cars under $30,000 are actually going to do well. As we go into this off season, and as things get kind of rocky out there, and expensive cars are having a hard time bringing those big numbers. I think cars under $30,000, people can still afford to buy these. And these are the kinds of, if you're going to get a loan for something, I don't know if you're going to get a loan for this car, but maybe you are. If you're going to pay 6% on the loan, or 8% or whatever, or 10 or whatever people are paying for used car loans.
Used cars now average 10 or 11%.
10 or 11%. So double digit percentage. Okay, There you go.
It's rough out there.
It's rough out there. So if you're going to be spending that kind of cheese, you don't want a big principal there, so you maybe take a $10,000, $15,000 loan.
Still $400 a month.
Still going to be $400 a month. It's crazy, right? What do you think this car is going to bring?
Having no knowledge of this particular example, I appreciate the nerd herds getting in there. I agree with you. The 20 to 30K range, like, everybody can still afford that. I don't know if this is the car you would get for that. I mean, this still seems like a very particular $33. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I hope it's some young person's main car. I think it would be a good grocery getter weekend and kind of learner's car.
It's tough for a young person to buy something like this because insurance is so damn high. What do you think, Mental? What's it going to bring?
You absolutely can live with this car every day. It's got the seat heaters. It's competent. It gets good gas mileage. And every now and again, when you got to beat somebody to an entrance ramp, it'll do it. And this car is, it's got the cool interior on this one. So I'm going to say she's going to bring 24,124.
24,124. There are the numbers from the nerds. This car, those numbers, those mid-20s, right? How much is an S2000 typically with, call it, twice the miles? Or even 3 times the miles. A 60 or 70,000 mile S2000 is probably going to be somewhere in that high 20s, right?
Yeah, but you don't get the modern creature comforts. You don't get
you don't with an S2000. I mean, maybe not seat heaters, but it's a Honda. It's going to have air conditioning.
It's going to have air conditioning. It's not going to have an infotainment system. Yeah. It's not going to have. It's not going to have Apple CarPlay. It's not going to have Google Play. It's not going to have. This is automatic climate control. You
go to the Best Buy and you get all those things. What are you talking about? Seriously, what are you talking about?
Where are you going to put it in the cockpit? You can't get. You're not getting 6-piston Brembos or on an S2000.
Okay. Now that's a legit upgrade. Okay, but are you seriously talking about CarPlay? Is a big deal.
That is one of the most requested features on all cars right now,
which you can get in any car by going down to, like I said, the electronics store and get a.
Yeah, but it's not going to be integrated into the dash like it is. It's not going to be designed in this one. So you've got to find a place for that screen.
Oh my God!
Dude, for the guy that's
who are we talking to?
You're talking about hardcores versus.
I'm talking about somebody who claims to be a car enthusiast versus.
We're talking about the value of this car, and the value of this car to someone who might be using as their daily driver. This is a better car than an S2000.
I agree.
By every measure.
I think it's perspective wise. This is a car that is more an everyday modern daily kind of car. I mean,
How is the S2000 not a modern daily car that you could be driven every day?
It could be, but I think for our generation, the younger people, we want the modern things. I want to plug my phone in and see Google Maps on the touchsture. Sorry.
You can install that so easy on an S2000. I just don't get this.
The average person's not going to do that.
It's a okay.
You know the average person isn't going to do that.
Yeah. All right. You guys would. What does the nerd herd say? I can't believe the people I'm sitting here across the desk for. You guys would rather.
I've already told you.
An S2000.
I've told you before. I hate the S2000. I loathe the S2000 with a white hot hatred that has to be experienced to be fully appreciated. I've never liked the S2000. You got to wind it to the damn universe to get any power of it. This thing's going to make low end grunt. This is a much better car to live with day to day. And speed wise, an unmodified S2000, this one's going to make it work. And you put this in the hand of a skilled driver.
No,
and
here we go.
I'm sorry, you put this in the hand of a skilled driver, he's going to run down an S2000.
Yeah, you give any car to a skilled driver, and they're going to beat someone in a better car.
I did not say it a better car. Run the numbers. What's the horsepower of an S2000?
God, who cares? This is so stupid. This is the
Like
dumbest.
You're telling me
I brought it up.
You're telling me the S2000 is a better car.
It is.
In what capacity? What's better on an S2000?
It says Honda on it, and it'll still work when it has 80,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
this is a Fiat.
I'll give you that much. After probably 40 or 50,000 miles, I'd rather have the S2000. But
yes, I would rather wind it out to get the power than this little turbo. I don't know, whatever. I don't get it, guys. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. This is going to be a good one. So Michael D picked this Volkswagen Corrado SLC. Again, that's a car that we've talked about way too many of these, and I just don't care. So we're going to skip it. If you guys want to check it out, I have the link in the description of the video below, so you can check out that car and tell us what you think, I guess, if you care, because I don't. But that's it. We are done with predictions. We will see you on, what day is today? Today's Wednesday. We'll see you Sunday.
No, you will only see you on Sunday.
Me and Deeb, if Deeb knows what day it is.
Or if Deeb assembles his studio, apparently, if that is still happening. He did mention last time that he is moving and his regular studio may or may not be ready. Mm-hmm. I am doubtful, but stay tuned to find out.
We shall see. In the meantime, if we want to see you, and we won't see you in the next episode because you'll be out of town, where can we find you on the YouTube machine?
You can find me at Tech Daily over on YouTube. I hope you all had a prosperous Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and got your loved ones some great gifts and all that. I am glad that the shopping season is over, but if you want some more regular content, I'll be over there.
Shopping season over? Yeah. Wait, shopping season starts on the 24th of December at about 4 o'clock.
Everyone spent all their money already.
All right, Mental, how you doing? Where do we find your show?
You can find me, Everyone Racers. We are going to have a new episode. It's already scheduled. It will premiere tomorrow morning on your way to work, and it is our 2024 gift-giving guide for the gearhead in your life. So check that one out. We've got links and all that other kind of stuff. And if you follow us on the social medias, you can watch me dress like an idiot because I will be judging the 24 Hours of Lemons race at Sonoma this weekend with 3 of my good friends, and we've actually all coordinated our ridiculous outfits. So we will be punishing miscreant drivers, and Michael Deeb's actually even going to stop by the track and say hi. So
look at that. If you want to see 2 of the big nerds in person, you can go see them over there. Where's that? Where can you see them?
It's the old Sonoma Raceway, I think.
Sonoma
Raceway. It's Sears Point. You know, it was always, I think Mazda owns it now, but it's the drag strip. Also the NASCAR course they run out there. It's actually a really good facility. It's just north of the Bay Area.
Cool, guys. We'll see you Sunday night. Bye.